When do we go live? Live. Now.
Here we are. Welcome, everyone, to today's Smart Pricing Next Level Up webinar. I'm Chris, the head of partnerships at Smart Pricing, and I'll be your host for the session. Today, we're diving deep into a very exciting and a crucial topic for all hoteliers and property managers, namely how to optimize your listing and secure a top spot on your OTAs. We all know that ranking high on OTAs means more visibility, more bookings, and ultimately more revenue. But how do you actually get there? That's the question. And what actions really move the needle? And what mistakes should you avoid? To break this down, I'm joined by two top experts in our industry, Bart-Jan, the CEO of Otamiser, and Signore Tommaso, the CEO of Smartpricing.
Chris.
Before we jump into the details, let's quickly introduce yourselves, guys. Toby, take it away.
I start. Nice to meet you. You really prepared for this, Chris? I love the intro. My name is Tommaso, co-founder and COO of Smartpricing. Aside from my day-to-day activities as co-founder, I'm also born as a property manager with my co-founder Luca and Eugenio. A few years before starting Smartpricing, we started also a property management company, which we grew from zero to around 100 properties, 100 listings here in North Lake Garda. In general, really passionate about anything that relates to the travel industry, and of course, super passionate about anything related to pricing and automation.
He is. Thank you very much, Bart-Jan. Over to Flanders.
Yes. So, hi everyone. Thanks, Chris and Tommaso, for having me, and thanks for getting this ramped up. Thank you. So I'm Bart-Jan. I'm the founder of Otamiser. Otamiser is a company originated in Flanders, in Ghent. So we are a company that specializes in OTA optimization, OTA maximization, and so on. We originated from the fact that my parents had a small bed and breakfast in Bruges. They did revenue management, or I did revenue management for them. And we were searching for an extra edge. How could we maximize revenue? Knowing the fact that, our revenue management game was up on a top level, we wanted to go to the extra route. So this is then where we started debugging algorithms of Booking.com, Expedia, then later Airbnb and VRBO as well. And we really wanted to get to know it. So today, Otamiser is a company divided in two silos, one for the STR market, where we have our product called Otorank, and one for the hotel market, where our product is called Otamiser. And again, Chris, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And our audience should know, whether you're watching this live or the recording, it's not a coincidence that these two guys are here on screen. The essence of automated income generation and making the most out of that automated income generation is an essential bit. And that's why we're here today. To set the stage, you both come from very different areas of expertise. The services complement each other perfectly, and you have a lot of results to show for. What is the ideal way for a hotelier to leverage both smart pricing or pricing automation and Otamiser? And I tried to come up with a specific niche to describe Otamiser, Bart-Jan, and maybe help me out, but there isn't much else in the industry, is there?
No, there isn't. There isn't.
There is your solo company. Tommy, what would you say? What is the ideal step? What are the ideal steps if you have a property, either apartments or a hotel? Would you start with getting an RMS in place, or would you start off with Otamiser? What is the ideal way to do it?
Oh, well, it's a very good question. When we started back in the days, I think we were really concerned with both. You need to have the right prices to optimize your revenue, to make sure you have a good income. But good prices on their own only do maybe 50% of the job, So you also want these prices to be visible, and we all know that OTAs give our properties so much visibility. Okay, despite the fact that of course we want to get as much direct business as possible, but OTAs are essential. So from the very outset, we were always concerned with both pricing correctly, but also making sure that we had the most visibility on, in our case, in our location, Booking.com is king. So we were super concerned with trying to optimize Booking.com. And sorry, back in the days, we didn't know Otamiser, because it would have saved me a lot of headaches.
But now you do, fortunately. But I think, Chris and Tommaso, that's the good thing. This is where Otamiser comes in play, and this is where we play our game. Maybe to answer your previous question, Chris, we would define ourselves as a ranking management solution, but unfortunately, we don't have a category. So we have to be our own category, which is is fun as well. But it's true what you said, Tommaso. You have pricing, which is a very essential part of your complete revenue generation, but your positioning or the amount of times people find you is also very important. I always like to compare it with your direct booking website. Everyone knows, okay, I want direct booking. I don't want to be reliant on OTAs and so on, but they do this by investing in SEO, investing in Google Ads, and so on. But they know on a direct website they have to rank high on Google to achieve a decent amount of bookings. But then when they translate it to OTAs, we see a lot of property managers or hotel just not investing in having a good ranking on those websites. But maybe a bit more like, how Otamiser plays in that, we analyze everything from your historical OTA behavior to your pricing, to your reviews, to really how you could optimize your OTAs and what's really the impact of pricing on OTAs or on pricing on your ranking, because those are interconnected. Your price of today has an impact of your ranking of tomorrow. And so I think we have three great minds alike to talk about this.
Yeah, this is brilliant, and one of the reasons also why you are here today is we analyzed a lot of our properties, the common ones. We analyzed the industry. We spoke to a lot of clients over the last years, and one of the things that often comes up is that the setup of the technologies, a property management system, distribution through channel manager, an RMS, and the OTA listings are taken as two separate topics. And today we would love to bring them together because in essence, what Tommaso mentioned earlier, only having the right price is great. But if you don't place yourself on the right spot on the OTAs, then you won't sell much, right? So with that, a question to Bart-Jan, like most of the accommodation owners understand that OTA rankings are important, but there is often a struggle of what to focus on. And what would you say are like the biggest levers that can actually improve your OTA listing or placement?
I will be honest, I would love to give you guys this one trick to take away and your business is fixed, but it isn't. There are multiple things to compare, and it's also important to acknowledge the different OTAs that are out there. You have either Airbnb and VRBO, which are very content driven, where keywords are important, and you have Expedia and Booking, where the correlation or the impact of price is way higher than it is, for example, on VRBO and Airbnb. But like, to answer your question, the most important thing is maintenance. Keep them up to date, keep them fresh, keep them engaged in what the new search trends is. Let me give you an Airbnb example. So for example, Airbnb changes their indexing, changes their algorithm on what guests are searching for. If for some region, let's say Vienna, a lot of people are looking for apartments with hot tub. What will happen is the hot tub apartments will be indexed more frequently in searches. This then has an impact on price because your property specific demand goes up. So, you come back to the whole supply demand curve back then. But the most important thing is maintenance. Keep it up to date. Don't look at it once every 2 years, because then you will be good for a couple of days a year, and then you will just dime away into the ranking. So keeping them fresh, keeping them updated, and just maintain them.
And that sounds like a big task. The question is
It
it big? Yeah, it is. Tommy, going back to your property management years, to the good old times, what?
We were not updating that though, and that often. Yeah, we were not. I'm liable here. Yeah. We were not.
What would you say is besides like keeping the content up to date? Like, what is the biggest mistake that hoteliers make still today when trying to improve their ranking? What is the psychological thing that you think you should be doing, but not necessarily the right one?
Well, I think that's also a question. That is a great question also to follow up with Bart. But I think I'm mostly an expert on a price level, and we know and we've seen over the years that pricing has a massive impact on rankings. So adjusting the price based on demand levels. The reason being that Booking.com, if we speak about Booking.com, Expedia, for sure they will reward you based on the fact that you have a high conversion. Then when they show your property to people will buy. This is good for them because they want to make money. Okay, so they want to showcase the properties that have the highest conversion rate. And pricing has a massive impact on this. And so I think updating prices regularly, depending on demand levels, is a key factor. And unfortunately, or fortunately for us, because we sell on RMS, still today only a fraction of property managers and hoteliers use a dynamic pricing software. Actually, we were participating in an event yesterday in Germany, and they showed us some data about the market, and still like only 7% of the market is using dynamic pricing solutions, and this mostly lies with the bigger sized properties.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Going to the OTA algorithms, there are a couple of that reward you and push you up higher. And the main one is having competitive rates. So not necessarily dropping your price and going very low to get a high conversion, but having competitive rates. And you can only get there if you automate it and if you leverage technology to set those prices for you. There are a couple more, Bart-Jan. How much impact or like how much control do you actually have as a property owner, as a hotelier, to go up in the rankings?
You do have a lot, so that's the fortunate thing. But maybe also to combine this question with what Tommaso said on the earlier question. OTAs, especially, let's talk about hotels, Booking.com and Expedia, they reward you for the rates you send, but also for the updated availability you send. And we always say this rule of thumb: in low season, you define your ranking of high season. So in low season, if you send competitive rates, if you send sufficient availability towards the OTAs, and you can prove a good conversion rate, then you're rewarded in high season. And when I talk about sufficient rates and availability, an RMS plays a crucial factor in this, because the amount of update speed or the amount of updates you send from an RMS tailors into the hypothesis of sending sufficient rates and availability. Luckily for us, or for everyone here in the room, we went to have a look at the update speed of smart pricing, and we can confirm it has a very positive impact on ranking. So that's one thing, to just update your pricing on a competitive landscape. But because in that low season, you make your race competitive towards your competitor, so people choose between you or another one because it's a couple of euros difference. That's impacting your high season. But how much of OTA ranking is within a hotelier's control? So that tunes into that as well. Your low season is where you take control. Your low season is where you take control of high season, because the impact of ranking is connected with your market demand. If you have a market demand of 100%, your market sells out, ranking is not very important because everyone will get booked. But in low demand, this is where ranking comes in play. If you have a market demand of 30%, it means only 30% of the market will probably get booked. It means that only the 30% best units will get booked. And if you're then high ranked there, you get into people attention span. So this is where you can really get there. But it's all about sending correct rates and availability in low season to impact that.
I love this point, by the way, because I never thought about this in such a clear way. How you work in low season will impact your results in high season. That's such a good point. Thank you, Bart.
And this is a massive point, mainly for seasonal property owners who should stay on top of things during the low season. We, as tech companies, we often get requests, can we switch things off in the low season because nothing is happening? That is not the way to go about it, because you shoot yourself in the foot massively before the high season starts again.
Maybe to tune in on that one, we have done cases where we looked at two similar properties. One was closed during low season, and one just sold some nights because no one went to the region. And that one property that just sold some nights had a way better performance during summer than the one who was closed for 2-3 months, because they didn't update the rates and availability. They weren't indexed. They couldn't be found. People couldn't find them in their search rankings, which had an impact on their high demand days. So sometimes property managers or hoteliers look at their monthly turnover, which is, a healthy business condition. But like in terms of ranking and revenue generation, it's very important to look at more on a long term, on a yearly basis. Like, okay, I will put availability there in low season because that will impact my high season. My rewards in high season will be way better.
Tommaso, to chime in on this, from the experience that you have working with thousands of properties globally, a lot of them are also seasonal. Do you feel that this topic is addressed enough, or is there a lot of value to be gained based on the words that Bart-Jan just said?
No, massive, I would say, massive improvements on this topic should be made. I think it's a topic that is even less known, if possible, than dynamic pricing. Actually, fun fact, I know so many colleagues of mine, hoteliers, property managers, that they go on OTAs and they only put limited inventory on OTA. So imagine that they have maybe 30 apartments, they only give or 10 rooms, they only give 1, 2 at a time. Bart, just to link to what you were saying before, which impact do you think this practice has on ranking for them?
Not a good one, because OTAs do scrape each other. OTAs look at comparison OTAs, what's the availability there. If Booking.com notice Expedia, for example, has different availability, or even your direct website has different availability, rest assured that your OTA impact will not be good. Also with rate parity and so on. But maybe just on the availability side, an interesting case there is on Airbnb for property manager. What sometimes happens, they have a 2-night stays and due to some bookings, they have a gap night. That gap night, people just make it unbookable and use it for deep cleanings to fix some operational things. But we have done some research by, setting that gap night open even at a 100% or 200% premium gets you higher in the ranking because you send more availability. And then on the Airbnb side of things, Airbnb looks at your average price in the last 30 days. So if you have one day which you join up or you increase with 100, 200%, your average increases, meaning that all your other rates will be better. So you get a little boost. So it's all about, I think, using your non-availability as well to boost your rankings.
That's a brilliant topic. Yeah, and actually it links to something that Tommaso holds dearly as well. Selling for either one night or minimum length of stay prices, getting rid of your orphan nights. That's something that should be also actioned a lot more than it currently is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is something that we always really cared about since we started the property management business. So we were always trying to sell out all nights, also single nights, with and trying to follow again Bart best practices. Maybe increasing those prices if you have to sell a single night, because of course as a property manager with apartment you need to you have high costs for cleaning. So to justify selling one night, okay, let's sell it a bit higher. But this is something we've always done, and we've always had to do this manually. So adjusting these prices, adjusting minimum length of stays. Luckily, and this is something we developed in the past couple of months, smart pricing now can support hoteliers and property managers in adjusting minimum length of stays dynamically, and even addressing orphan nights. So just to give you a quick snapshot of the functionality, we're able to identify when a night is not sellable due to restrictions, and if it falls within 2 reservations, we're able to cancel the minimum stay and make it again available for sale.
And that's update. And that's right. And that update is then again also impacting your sufficient rates and availability. So
yeah. And this is where it all comes together, right? It's not separate topics. And often when we speak with property owners, the topics are being siloed. It is having your PMS in order, having distribution in order, and that often includes OTAs, but not really, because the topics that you guys have hit upon until now are not part of that. It's more just, okay, I should be listed on Booking, on Expedia and others. And then the whole part of income generation on autopilot is also separate. But now we see it comes together. Exactly. What I wanted to ask you, Bart-Jan, is are there differences between OTAs? Because we speak now about OTAs as one big bucket, but we know there is Booking, there's Expedia, you have Airbnb and VRBO for the property managers. Are there some small differentiations?
There are. Fortunately and unfortunately for us, probably unfortunate for the audience, there are a lot of differences. We always make them in 2 buckets. So we have either bucket Expedia and Booking.com. There's a bit more static approach in how they rank, and then you have a bit more of a dynamic ranking from Airbnb and VRBO. Airbnb and VRBO are very content driven. It's all about which keywords you inject, how your first picture is scraped for tailoring into the right category. So Airbnb and VRBO are very much more content dependent, where with content you can make a very big impact. The response rate of your messages, response rate of your reviews are very, very important there. While in Booking.com and Expedia, they are a bit more other in a way of thinking. Pricing has the weight on pricing is way bigger there. Also, I saw a question coming in here from the audience, the loyalty programs. Booking and Expedia reward you if you join loyalty programs. I think the biggest impactor on ranking is the preferred partner plus today. So we have to, we have to be honest about that. That really impacts it. But it's all about how can you leverage that good ranking. But maybe to showcase the differences between both of them, you have Expedia and Booking not really liking each other. And so what they do, they scrape each other constantly. And based on your rate parity or your rate imparity, your ranking gets affected. Let's say on Booking.com, you have €1 less on an average rate than on Expedia. Then you will get a ranking boost because Booking.com scraped you, and you can find it in your own extranet as well. Booking.com scrapes, Expedia sees, okay, our prices are more competitive than Expedia, so we will boost this property. But if it's vice versa, you get really pushed down to the bottom. But then, it's a strategic question. In my region, which OTA is king? Which OTA is very controlling the market? If it's Booking.com like here in Western Europe, then I would hint you guys to potentially think about rate imparity. On the Airbnb side of things, for some US properties, they scrape it. And little tip from my side, don't let them scrape you. Make sure you don't have two the same names on Booking and Expedia. Make sure Airbnb cannot match it, so they cannot scrape it, so your prices cannot be affected by that. But that's just a little tip.
So that's a nice little life hack.
That's a good tip.
Note it down. Do not have the same names. The tricky thing is, if I am a client and I go look for hotels in Vienna or in Rome, and I see a different name on your website and on the OTA listing, then I might be asking questions like, "What's up?" But for
Exactly.
for smaller properties, it's a very good point, and it leads me to a question. Before that, just on the preferred program of Booking.com, that impacts ranking massively. Because the issue with that is, if you're labeled in that top group, nobody from the group below you can ever get into the preferred pages, even if they have much better conversion and everything, because you pay more commission. So even if you have a low performing property, you will be still placed higher than a top performing property that is not in the preferred group. So this is a strategic decision you need to make as the owner, and put it into your
Exactly.
mix.
Exactly.
But
And it's also
go ahead.
sorry, it's also calculating, what is the increased or the incremental commission doing to my ABR? If you see it's increasing, then it might be worth it. But we have seen instances where commission rose from 15 to 20%, and you just translate it in your markups where people make in net profit. So that's making a strategic decision, and it also depends on your market. If you're in a very chained up market where you have brands like Accor, Marriott, and so on, they have different contracts with Booking.com. I don't think everyone knows this, so they are also there. So it also depends on your region a bit, whether you take the strategic decision or not.
Yeah, and this is a nice thing. And going to Tommaso, of course, you didn't manage Accors and Marriotts, and it's also
No.
very unhealthy to compare yourself to them. But what you can do is take the best practices that they have and apply it to your own business. And then, if you had to focus on like two things in general, would you say that dynamic pricing and your content are the biggest focuses that you apply when it comes to impacting your ranking? Is there anything else?
Yeah. For me, I'm also really obsessed by reviews, which I think also have a big impact on the ranking. It's all. Our job is trying to make guests happy, right? And when people book, when I book, I think also when you guys book, it's probably one of the first things you want to check about the property. Actually, I personally, for example, put it's one of the first filters I put. Nothing below 8, below 9. You really want to start from the top ones. And so yeah, it's also about that. And I don't think something that you can really scale with a software from giving a good experience. But what we should do as owners is trying to collect as much feedback as possible from our guests. And that's something that is scalable, actually.
It's a brilliant point. And actually, when we make a summary of the points that you mentioned, we will get to about 6 points that impact your ranking massively. So do stay until the end, because there's not only life hacks of the two guys, but also a summary of what are the key elements that do impact your ranking. Before we get to what you should be doing, Bart-Jan, let's do a bit of myth busting. What do you see as the biggest common mistakes? Properties in general, and maybe specified by small and large properties. What are the differences when they're trying to improve the ranking?
I have seen a lot of funny things. I think what some people do is, or what I have seen is people just changing their title on Airbnb once a day, adding an exclamation point, removing it the day other. That's changing something for the sake of change. That doesn't really work. That's a big myth. That's, it's all about what you change, the frequency react to change in the algorithm. So I wouldn't do that, because it's not only time consuming and there's no real evidence that it properly works. I think that's a major one. Then what I have seen other hoteliers doing is they want to create scarcity. They want to say they limit their availability. They send to an OTA, so a potential guest think, oh, there's really one room
That's
left.
a big one.
That's a big one. I should book it, but you're only jeopardizing your own sustainable ranking position, because as we discussed earlier in this session, you don't send right rates and availability. It won't match between different platforms, so you will get punished. You have to update it. It depends on the channel manager if you can. So you're only putting yourself in a weird kind of situation by doing it. So yeah, if anyone would think of doing it, I would advise not to do it, because it's a lot of work and it doesn't work.
It's a big one. I heard it actually tons of times from colleagues of mine. They try to do it. They always want to have the badge, like that's last available on our site. They love it.
Yeah, it's a psychological trigger. And then the question is, and maybe ask your Booking.com account manager, is it legit? Is it real? Or are there some mind games in the background?
Probably.
Question for Bart.
Hint? There are, yes. Well, one of the big things that are always a topic in any conversation with industry experts on panels and interviews, it's always about direct bookings, right? How do I get more direct bookings? How do I deleverage from OTAs? How can I take back the reservations in my own control? What is it with direct bookings? Do they help or hurt your ranking on OTA, Bart-Jan? Or is there any relationship at all?
Theoretically, there isn't. To some extent, if you go from 12% to 18% direct booking, that won't have a big impact. Booking.com and those OTAs can legitimate in Europe not scrape your direct website. So in theory, there isn't. But where there is an impact, if your direct traffic starts to increase massively, so again, your availability you send to Booking.com is limited. There is where we see impact. But when it comes to direct bookings, for me, it's not one or the other. Increasing OTA performance also goes hand in hand with more direct bookings in a lot of cases. Not relatively possible, but like in absolute numbers. Because what happens a lot in this market or in the travel industry is people find you on an OTA, they think, oh, nice property, and then they go and check out your website, or maybe your TripAdvisor or your Google business profile, and then they book on your own website because let's hope for everyone here that their direct website is a bit cheaper, so the guests get some perks. So by just setting your direct website cheaper, you can lure in that overflow of OTA people who find you on OTA and go there, because there are researchers who claim that 60% of all direct bookings who are not influenced by any Google ads are coming from an overflow of OTAs. Of course, researchers vary a bit in numbers dependent on region. So for me, it's not one way or the other.
That's a fantastic insight. Tommy, what would you add from like a property manager perspective? What is a healthy approach to driving direct bookings and having a great website and having a great booking engine that's high converting, and also having the OTAs in play? Would you say there are some different prices that you would send? Would you keep a full rate parity? What do you see as best practices from your position?
I tell you what I personally do, and then Bart-Jan can tell me if I'm doing something wrong. Highly likely. So I personally keep around 15 to 18% higher prices on OTAs, and then specifically mentioning again Booking.com, because again in our area is the biggest player, and then we normally activate Genius and some other offers, which basically automatically re-establish almost the parity between the two. So that's what we currently do. What we don't do, but I would love to test and love to ask actually to you, Bart, if it could make sense, is instead of playing too much with the prices, maybe trying to incentivize direct bookings by other means. For example, giving extra perks or extra services for free in case you book directly on my website. So lately, I'm thinking a lot about this as a potential new strategy. What do you think?
I can confirm it's a good idea. But maybe the why. So when Booking.com starts scraping, they scrape Google Hotels. So on Google Hotels, you have an overview: direct website 100, Expedia 110, Booking 105. By doing this, you give them the confirmation: look, Booking, we're giving you anything they want. But because they scrape Google Hotels, so the overview, they cannot scrape any perks. They cannot scrape if there's breakfast included or excluded, if you have a late check-in or an early check-in. So that's actually a very good way of doing it. Where we just heard a lot of pushback from owners is that it has to be operational, like it has to be manageable on an operation level. But if you have the bandwidth to do it, then I think that's one of the best tactics you could use, by just incentivizing people who book direct to give something for free, which they don't have on an OTA.
Good.
That's great. Thank you. Like, there's a lot of things in between I want to ask you, and respectful of time as well, because time flies with you, and I love to see the energy, especially between the two of you. After the show, are you happy for people to reach out to you and ask questions and ask for help?
Please do. I love it.
Fantastic.
For sure, I will reach out to Bart-Jan to
we'll get some beers.
No, because these are conversations that should be happening, and they're not happening enough between hoteliers, between property owners. Get also the tech companies involved, not only for the things that are essential now. I do want to have one question that is also looking ahead. And of course, we can't leave out artificial intelligence out of the equation, not necessarily because we want to push it, but because we see it everywhere around us. And for example, when we use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever tool, there are plugins by Booking.com, by Expedia, there are different AI travel planner apps. Tommaso, what is your not only vision of AI in automated pricing going forward, but how do you leverage AI yourself at smart pricing / at your own properties?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, we've been early in this game, with smart pricing. It has always been all about, machine learning, so analyzing data, making sense of data to suggest the optimal rates. And with Eugenio, my co-founder, we are in the last couple of months experimenting more and more with the models like ChatGPT and others to basically provide more context and more visibility to our users, so to the property managers, to the hoteliers, to allow them to understand what the models are doing, why they are suggesting specific prices, and also to interact in a more human and fast way. So on this front, we are investing quite heavily, but we are also investing and expanding into other products. Because again, remember, I'm also a part of a property management company, and as property managers, we do have to manage tons of conversations, tons of requests from our guests. So we are developing a new product, which is I don't wanna mention too much now because it's coming in a couple of weeks, but that is gonna tackle exactly this challenge and allow us first and then all our customers to scale support and answering to guests.
Brilliant. So the AI is leveraged to make and the quality of the whole experience much better. There's AI leverage to come up with the right price. And then Bart-Jan, from your end, how does AI impact OTA rankings, if at all? And what's your take on the near future?
I love the question. It's a vision question. It's a philosophical question, but I will answer it twofold, maybe as well, how we are adapted to AI. We use it for generative content writing for our STR tool, where we automatically push new content that's tailored towards Airbnb or VRBO once for a higher position. That's how AI is very embedded in our solution, in our STR solution. But maybe more on the philosophical question is, how will those trip planners, those AI trip planners, how will that impact the game? And luckily for us, ranking will become a higher impact, because those trip planners, they look just at, okay, what are the highest ranked properties, and they suggest it. So they, how they do it in the back, they scrape it and they look, okay, this one is position 1, suggested, not good, position 2. So impacting or your ranking or your positioning, your visibility on those OTAs will only, the impact of ranking will only increase, just because, people get lazy, their attention span gets shorter. They ask AI, hey, fix me a trip, let me go to Milan and give me 3 good hotels and I will choose. The AI will just take the 3 best one, because it makes sense as well, because in the back of Booking, Airbnb, VRBO, Expedia, they also will just push good hotels, or which they deem good, being checking all the text boxes from race and availability, to a high place. So this is how it will come in place as well. So ranking will impact even more in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And the ranking, people, is in your hands. It's not in the hands of Booking. It's not in the hands of Expedia. And it's also not only on the hands of these 2 fine gentlemen here on the screen. You must work on your ranking yourself. And we've heard a lot of topics in the conversation so far. Allow me to summarize the main ones. First of all, you must have competitive rates that people actually want to buy and that you want to be selling your rooms at. You need to have constant availability, watch out for your stay restrictions, watch out for your seasonality, because they will give you a kick in the face. It's very dangerous. Update your content. And Bart-Jan stressed the importance of updating the content regularly. We know that that's something that's always lagging behind. Tommaso very rightfully mentioned reviews. They are a massive part of an OTA's ranking as well, even though it's not impacted by price. If people don't want to stay at your place, why in God's name would you be high up in the rankings? And all of these combined will lead to a high conversion rate. And as both gentlemen said during the conversation, the conversion at the end of the day is what's most important. That's where an OTA makes the money. And the more money you make for an OTA, the higher up you'll be. And if all of this goes well, hand in hand with low cancellations, then you have aced your OTA game.
Great summary, Chris.
Great.
With
I
that,
think to jump
Go
in,
ahead.
you forget one big thing is having an RMS that has a sufficient update speed.
Yeah, and that is one of the things with a lot of technology. It's not only having the thing, it's having the right thing. And the only way how you can assess whether you have the right thing is by speaking up, asking questions. How can people reach you guys? What is the easiest way for a hotelier, a property manager to ask questions to Tommaso? How do I do my pricing?
I would say I'm pretty responsive on my emails. So Tommaso, MMASO @smartpricing.it. But even if you go on our website, you request a chat, they can redirect you to me, no problem. I could also give out my phone number, but maybe that's too much.
Send an email first, and then you can go deeper. Bart-Jan?
So people can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have a quite unique name. So I don't think there will be a lot of same names on LinkedIn, so you can easily find me. Or you can drop me an email. It's bartjan@otamiser.com or bart@otamiser.com. I have all the iteration linked to my email, so you can just
Fantastic. So
Good one.
a lot of ways lead to Bart-Jan and to Tommaso. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here with us today. Thank you very much to our audience for staying with us until the end. There's much more to uncover, but I leave that up to you to reach out to the guys or to their companies. And I'm looking forward to seeing you during the next Level Up session, and wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you.